What is going on, everybody? It's Alexander Williamson here with the secret history living inside your aquarium. So I hope that you don't mind, or mind, whatever. You can do whatever you want. You can mind it, you can don't mind it. The giant gash on my face. I mean, it's not what it looks like. I know it looks like I fell and scraped myself. It's actually a meth sore. So let's just keep going with this. How is everybody doing? Filtering in here. Let's see here. Muppets in here. Violet Alpha's in here. Kenesha Leonard's in here. Daniel keeping fish. Evening, folks. How is everyone doing? Good? Good? We doing good? We'll let people trickle in a little bit. Today, as always, we're going to do a loose formed live stream. David, hello. John, hello. We're gonna do a loosey goosey live stream. Check out the new Plecos from Aquatic Arts, by the way. They're a little discolored. They're still stressed. They don't know what's going on. There's just too much going on in the tank for them. But I've gotten them, my other leopard frog plecos, my L134s. I've gotten them all from Aquatic Arts, and they're by far a superior line that they have. They really turn banana yellow when they're happy, when they're eating bloodworms and it's nighttime and they're not under the bright light of a grow light basically. They get really happy, especially if they've got sand to hide in and stuff. So once they grow up big enough to compete with the big boys that I already have, we'll definitely be trying to spawn those, and that will be a fun project. So, what else is new? Well, my Nanochromis, still no babies. They go into the little hut together down here. Oh, the Catapa leaves hiding the huts. But there's some little huts in here, and they won't make the babies. I don't know. They might need water that has a little more TDS. I don't know. This is a very glacier fed / rainwater fed municipal city water source tank, and so it's very similar to the Amazon or Southeast Asian clear running waters, and it gets a lot of water changes compared to the others. So today I wanted to talk about acclimating fish to new aquariums. When you buy fish, when you get them in the mail, or you get them at the fish store, or you buy them on Craigslist, what do you do when you get them home? What's the best way to get them home? Like how touchy are they? And then do you need to drip acclimate them? Should you just throw them in? What what's really like? What's the reality of how you should handle it? And we'll jump in right now. We'll jump in early. But if you have questions about anything, other unrelated stuff, you can chime in. If I have a moment, I will discuss it. If I'm kind of on a tangent, as always, I will probably stick with the tangent that's in the front of my mind. By the way, you can see the older Pleco back in there. Also a lighter color. It's because it's daytime. In the daytime, they brighten up into that white and black rather than yellow and black. And at night, whoa, it's me again. Hi. What's in the box? What's in the box? Well, the box was that was the thumbnail. Uh, well, let's just go downstairs. We'll take a look. If you didn't see my live streams the other day, well, there were two of those leopard frog plecos in there, but there it was also a bunch of gobies because I have wanted gobies for a really long time, and I finally set up a tank, got it cycled, and now I have gobies. So yay me, go bees. Okay, let's look at the gobies. Let's discuss gobiisms. Okay, they hide a lot, by the way, but we got three species of gobies going on in here, and if you saw my last few videos, you already know this, but this will fit in nicely with how much you need to do to acclimate a fish to its new environment. And as much as this is a cop out, you really just need to know what the fish is. If it's an endler or a guppy or a live bear, it's probably going to be okay in anything from 6.5 all the way to 8.5. You know, there's some kind of bulletproof or hardy fish. That being said, if you have some rare strain that you're paying a lot of money for, or a wild strain that comes from a region, you know, with limestone, like a live bear that lives in like the cenote caves in Florida, or more specifically, there's way more of them in Mexico and Honduras and Guatemala. Uh, in those, you would definitely want to have a higher pH. So that's where you do things like you add crushed coral to the mix. Like in this tank here, I've added crushed coral, and we've got Medaka rice fish, which can withstand some pretty salty water, some brackish water. And bettas, which also can take TDS. They can take very, very low acidity water, or highly acidic, low pH water, but they can also take the same conditions as my guppies and as the Medaka. These are the blue Daisy's blue rice fish, and then we also have in here a few of the platinum pearl scale rice fish. So, um, if you're introducing fish, so this is my blankest tank. This is a glass bottom tank. And so, for instance, when I got fish for this tank, I wanted to put bettas in. Now, bettas you think are pretty bulletproof because they come in that little cup at the store. And yes, they will survive that. But if you want them to thrive and live a long time, what you'll need to do with any fish is you're going to take the bag that they're in, or the cup, or whatever, however you got it, and you're going to float it. And there's two major ways that people sell you fish, especially if you're buying them online. You might see a bag that looks like this. There's only a few brands in existence, but they're called breather bags. And so if you see it like this and there's no air in the bag, pretend this is all water and there's a fish in here. You don't want to just set that in your tank, because it allows air exchange. It allows the oxygen in and out. And if you put it in the water, that exchange stops. So you definitely want to have it floating with well over half the bag out of the water, and that just even a third of the bag touching of the water in the bag touching the water in your tank will allow it to acclimate to the surface temperature. Now, if you have a traditional bag, a bag o' fish, you know, something like this, what you can do is you can just put the bag right in. You're going to want to let it float for, say, 20, 30 minutes. What I do, it kind of depends on how dire the situation is. If it's a real dire situation and you can see that there's a dead fish in the pack that's arriving, then you're going to want to open that up. When you open it up, if there is a dead fish in a bag, what you want to do is kind of say, forget all of the protocol, and you're kind of in triage mode. So you'll get a net like this, maybe a bucket like that one there, and you'll just simply pour out all that water. Because what happens is when water has some ammonia and nitrites in it from a dead fish, and just from them pooping, if there's a whole bunch of poop in there too, it's bad. But as soon as it comes into contact with oxygen when you've opened the bag, it goes from bad to way worse. And it also drops the pH in the bag, so it can be a major bad situation, just saying. And also, you can see like a lot of fish, depending on the species, can create quite a bit of waste in shipment. Like plecos are notorious, cribs and angelfish, Corydoras can make waste. And another note while we're here on Corydoras is that all Corydoras, as cute as they are are actually toxic. They're venomous, to technically talk about it. I say poisonous though because in the wild, what they do is they have these glands underneath their um, armpit, essentially their pectoral fins, and they'll squeeze out this kind of cloud of gelatinous goo that makes it can stick to things, but it also diffuses in the water. It is water soluble, and then it can really cause poisoning of whatever was trying to eat them. So if an animal gets sick and dies from eating something, that's poison. If it gets bit or injected, stabbed, pricked, stung, then that would be a venom. Venom needs to be injected. So technically, Cories, they do have little spiked. They do have little spikes on their fins. I think we've got some Cories up here right now. They do have little spikes on their fins, but they're not prone to doing it unless very stressed or like in the mouth or you have your hands around them. I've been nailed by a couple of them. A couple different Cories have gotten me over the years, with the biggest and most painful one being the Trilineatus or the false Julii Corridora. Being that's a rough one. That one hurts, and the Panda Cory hurts too. But here's a little Cory, just since we're talking about them. Turn around, buddy. This is a Venezuelan Cory, Aeneas venezuelas species. Orange hyphen is they're also known. Of course, it just looks like nothing because we can't really see it at the right angle. Um, It'll move in a sec. But when you put them into a bag to ship or get them out of a bag, you don't want to use that water whatsoever. Even if it's a new tank and you're thinking, oh, well, I trust the people that I got the fish from, and I bet their water is all cycled, so it'll add good bacteria load to my tank that may not be as cycled. Um, don't do it with Cories because the Cories, like I said, they've poisoned that water and they'll actually kill themselves. They have some immunity to their own poison, but not fully. So they can kill themselves. I've seen it happen a few times, and I've actually read a lecture on it. They've just kind of confirmed this, all the details. A fella down at USC Riverside just did the research. And it appears that all Cories do it. So if you're shipping Cories, the best thing to do is to put them in a container like this, a little dip and pour. And I've got links to these in the description if you want to pick one up. A pour and scoop, whatever you want to call them, a specimen box. They have lots of names they go by. But basically, you want to put like 2 or 3 Cories in there in a little bit of water and agitate them. I don't mean like hurt them, but shake around a little bit, or take my favorite tool lately has just been, because it's just so practical, is the turkey baster. So I usually blow bubbles in there with them, and that will cause them to release their venom. Usually they don't always do it, and most species you won't notice it, but some species you'll actually, if you look carefully, see the little cloud of like a milky substance come out from underneath their pectoral front fins. And so then once that happens, you want to pour them out you pour the water out down the drain and pour them into a new container altogether. So the next thing you want to figure out about your species of fish as you're unboxing it and putting it into your tank is you want to figure out, okay, the most important things are probably going to be, first of all, that you have no ammonia and low nitrates, ideally. The next thing is going to be that you have a cycled tank, obviously, so that you're not going to put them in there and then they're the one who spikes the ammonia, everything goes nuts. I have seen people only have shrimp in their tank and they think it's cycled, and really, in reality, there's not much good bacteria because shrimp didn't produce enough bioload. They didn't have plants, or they didn't use any food pellets or a starter fish or any sort of bacteria, and they didn't let it sit for a full month. Maybe they waited only a week or something. So just make sure that your tanks are cycled. That is really important. I know it's hard to wait. You want to just get your fish into the tank. Over here we've got one of the neon blue uh, gobies from these ones live in Taiwan and the Philippines and American Samoa. And then we've got another species, the Palauan one, that has a turquoise dot up by its head up there. They look like a little frog or a little snake when they poke their head up. Um, and there's the female of the Palauan riffle goby also. So, yeah, I really like them. This tank I've been sitting at for hours and hours and hours. Now, I'll discuss also a little bit when you get fish or shrimp and it's a tank that maybe like so this tank's been running for 2 years, but it hasn't had a very strong cycle at the water parameters it's at. This tank was basically I threw all these plants in here on purposely dirty, and then I put an LED that's way stronger than the one that was on here above it, and I moved in all of these pieces of dirty wood because one, they're going to have some tannins, and two, they're full of algae, blackbeard algae, cyanobacteria, just every sort of dirty, dingy thing that you can think of. And for gobies, that's what they need. They need biofilm. And so they eat that. They eat up to their own body weight a day in it, and there's 9 of them. So you really want to plan that out. Another species that notoriously people don't plan well for is going to be like the panda loach. They can be expensive, and I think part of the reason is not just because they're only in one river basin in the world in China, but I think it's actually also partially just so that there's a bit of responsibility and seriousness of, oh, okay, I need to take care of these critters properly. I'm not just buying them willy-nilly like neon tetras and tossing them in. Usually you're going to be okay if your tank is too acidic. So if you have a low TDS and a high pH, or low pH, high acidity, sorry guys, you'll probably be okay for a while. Now, if it's the other way around, there's the majority of fish like neutral to subneutral acidity and lower TDS, somewhere around 100 to 200. Some are right in there. There are some fish like pseudomagills and rainbow fish, as well as various things like stingrays and a few other oddballs that need like 50 TDS, like very, very clean water. And don't confuse clean water and tannins and things like that, because you can have clean water that is darker than a cup of tea or even almost as dark as a cup of coffee, and that can still be totally safe for your fish. That's just tannins, and that adds acidity, but it also has a bunch of antifungal, antimicrobial. Now, when you put new fish or shrimp into a tank, I always like to add catappa leaves, Indian almond leaves, same thing, or oak tree leaves, all sorts of stuff. This is my blue dream tank right now, and they're just chilling, doing their thing. And they're eating biofilm up at the top of the water by where the light hits it the most. So this is, for me, in my mind, I'm actually keeping track of, wow, this big ball of algae and sawassertang is full of nutrients for those gobies when I need it. So if you have multiple tanks, it's good to know if you have a tank that always looks quote unquote dirty, but it's really just full of algae and all sorts of plankton and things like that. That can be a really good thing. You can use that to your advantage. There are many fish that like quote unquote a dirty tank. So yeah. if we look down here, there should be some little young Cory Catfish also that are still in their kind of larval stage. They're hanging out down here. See how they're eating the biofilm off of the leaves? They're not eating solid food yet, per se, like flake food. And then over in the far side over here, we've also got some of these scarlet batis. And the scarlet batis, beautiful little fish. Let me show you the male. He is like incredible right now because he's been spawning. He's been chasing the ladies around, spawning in the tank. And I'll probably be taking him out very soon so that the eggs have a chance because dad and mom both enjoy munching on their own young's eggs. So here he is showing off in all of his royal grandeur. Check that out. So, oh, he's coming closer. And so these little nano fish, they tend to, I say tend, probably 80% of nano fish like acidic water, and they like oxygenated water. Now, the exception to that would be gouramis, bettas, and licorice gouramis. They all of them have labyrinth organs. So any fish with a labyrinth organ means that they can breathe air from the top, not just using their gills. And so that allows them to actually, it doesn't matter what the quality of the water is almost. They can go to the top even if the water's, jet black. So, yeah, but this guy's just gorgeous right now. He's not even, I mean, he gets even brighter than that when he's courting. And I'll put some pictures on the Secret History Living in Your Aquarium Facebook group where he's actually spawning with his female. Or they don't spawn like salmon. They spawn. They actually breed. So the difference between spawning and breeding: spawning means that the female lays eggs and then the male lays milt, or fertilizes those eggs once she's left them on the ground. These fish, however, actually have intercourse, and then she lays eggs after they're fertilized within her. She'll drop them around once he's out of the way and not looking to eat whatever she's dropping, because he'll try to literally eat every egg she drops otherwise. Um, so, same with shrimp. When you're talking about the nanofish acclimation, uh, usually acidic waters, most people, unless they really know what they're doing and they're working on doing it, uh, and Chad, by the way, if you say you have some endlers, I would love to see what they look like. I may very well be interested. Thank you. Um, but so the acidity is not going to be a problem usually because most people can't get it below around 5 without really trying. You need to add like bogwood, like Malaysian bogwood, or actual tannin extract. What I do is I actually boil down leaves and I get this water that is tannic, and I reduce it. So it's almost like a tincture of tannins. And then I've also done that with sub boiling so that you don't actually break down all those enzymes. But with these guys, anything from 5 up to around 7.5, nano fish usually will handle just fine. Tropical fish, that is. The exceptions are usually cichlids and live bears. They oftentimes come from very limestone rich areas, like I was saying, where that then increases the TDS and the KH, or carbonate hardness, and the GH, the general hardness. So the carbon, the calcium, all those things are going to be higher in an area of limestone, because what is limestone, guys? Limestone is crushed seashells under pressure that's turned into stone. So, that's, it results in a tank that can be basic. Salt also becomes basic. and adds to the TDS because it can dissolve in the water. Here we're looking at a female riffle goby, and she's eating that biofilm. So I wasn't kidding when I'm saying get food ready for your fish when they are arriving. When they get in their tank, usually they're going to hide for a few minutes or hours. It depends on the fish. They might even hide for a week. That's how some species are. These little gobies are pretty shy, but I've really worked hard to get them an environment that really mimics where they come from. I'm sure they didn't have this type of environment in their tank at the distribution center. Just out of they couldn't. So even though this tank has a lot more plants than their environment normally would underwater, I'm hoping that the broadleaf plants, you can see how much algae and just little colonies of bacteria. When we've looked on the microscope videos, you guys know there's all sorts of nematodes and little trematodes. I'm not making that up. Trematodes and nematodes are different. Little types of aufuchs. Here we have that beautiful male uh, Palauan younger male riffle goby. It looks very similar to the neon blue ones, except for the neon blue ones still have a yellow fin on their back. And like this one here, this is a neon blue goby right there. The neon gold ones are probably, if you had to say which are the prettiest in this tank, probably those. They are the ones that are in the picture from yesterday's video. But gobies come in all different colors, and they specialize in different things. Some of them are able to do crazy, physical feats of climbing up outside of the water. I mean, like like they're out of the water column completely. So you need a lid. I've been putting cardboard over, but I need to actually go buy a fitting lid because they'll be able to get out. So when you get new fish and you're acclimating them, you want to know as much as you can about them. Go to Seriously Fish, or if you buy them through Aquatic Arts, like where I got these guys and where I buy a lot of my fish, they'll tell you a whole lot about the places that they come from. And you can always deduce, once you start knowing this hobby well, you can always really deduce what you need to do by reading the parameters they live in. So if you see that they like water that has a pH of 5, you know that's really acidic. And how does water get that acidic in the wild? Well, it gets that acidic because it has a lot of plant material in it. It has a lot of plant material, has a lot of wood, it has decaying animals and things, but yet it has a good bacteria presence to also handle that. Now, here comes another neon blue young pup, and just hanging out in here too, we have some Fonzie Rasboras. These guys will not spawn. I've spawned them a few times, but they won't spawn unless the pH is down to around 4.5. So they like to, I mean, they might as well be spawning in orange juice, these guys. Uh, but just knowing that will really help you. So if you can find out the TDS, to me, that's more important than the KH and the GH in everything except for shrimp. Because that really tells you where they come from. There's only so many ways that you're going to increase that TDS, and it's really has to do with what the bedrock is in the area that these fish come from, and it has to do with the water speed. So if they live in a fast-moving river that then comes down into a lake or a valley, they could have a very high TDS, or if the water comes from aquifers underground. This is a powder melon sword, and it's been grown above the water, and so it's quote unquote melting. So the leaves will probably melt back and then die, and then they'll come back to life. Essentially, very similar to cryptocorin does that very commonly too. Now, Anubias is a very hardy leaf and a very sturdy plant. So, Anubias, Java fern, and this is African bulbitis, as well as some Asian bulbitis back there. Those are a fern that will grow both underwater and out of water, but they all really build up junk on their surface. And that's exactly what I want, because you can see these fish are holding on with their little pectoral fins, which actually come to a cleft in their chin and create a suction cup. So those fins in the very front, as well as the split in their jaw, create a 4-point suction cup, and that's how a lot of these gobies hold on, and they can hold on in like 30-mile-an-hour river water. They can literally climb straight up waterfalls. All these Stiphodon species of gobies can do it. And aquatic arts, I want to order more. I just don't have the money right now. But I want to do another tank. I've even thought about doing a 40 breeder just for these little guys and picking something that lives with them, like pseudomagills, because they're from the Pacific Ocean and there's not many freshwater fish that live way out in those islands because they've evolved from saltwater gobies and gudgeons into these, and every group of them on every island chain is going to be different. They're going to have different habits, different food needs. So when you're acclimating your fish, that's an extreme example of the kind of setup you'd want. So I knew that I needed to have an extra air stone. I needed to have extra water flow. I needed to have an extra power head and a hang off the back filter and a lid and grazing area. So that is extreme. Now, if we're talking about something like Neocaridina shrimp, that's a really common one that people are always asking me about how I acclimate them. Well, the younger a fish or shrimp is, usually the better. It can usually handle a lot more abuse, per se, when it's very young. Now, this tank is getting very full of all the babies the last month or two that you guys have seen. There are a lot of the albino and opalescent or gold-shelled ram's horn snails, and then there's all my longfin blue-eyed pleco fry. Not all of them. There's maybe 20 in here that are still very young, but they're getting big enough now that they can go back to their parents' tank. And then I keep my pregnant shrimp in here because you can see there's just baby shrimp all over. So what do I do to assure that when I get a new Neocaridina, for instance, I don't advocate this unless you know what you're doing pretty well, but I put the new green jade Neocaridina that I got from Aquatic Arts. I saw that a couple actually had babies already. They had, or I should say not babies, but eggs. They were buried. And so I didn't want them to get lost in the shuffle of a new aquarium down with fish. So I wanted them to only be with very teeny fish and sucker fish. And so I moved them into here. So here is that green Neocaridina female. And as long as she's carrying babies, she's not going to get impregnated by a red Neocaridina. So I moved her here. And once I see that she's dropped her newborn babies, then I'll move her back is the second I see that. And the males that are young, like this one right next to her, he is at risk of impregnating anybody who enters their area in this tank. So that's why you see that I have two kinds. I have the Little Red Riding Hood and I have the super painted fire red. It's because they're all female other than these youngins, but now I need to get these youngins out. But back to acclimating, I have videos on how to do shrimp nurseries, which is you see all these little shrimp. You can have multiple strains, and if you watch it carefully, you can make sure that they don't interbreed, and you can actually have several types all in the same little 5 5-gallon tank. And yes, I am growing out little Corys in here, little Habrosis Corys, and also some of the Venezuelan Corys that are still very young. Uh, so what I recommend is I like a sand substrate or a neutral substrate, so fluorite, gravel, sand. Wash it thoroughly. Make sure the tank's cycled. With shrimp, you really don't need to cycle the tank a ton, in that they don't produce much ammonia. But if you're adding fish with the shrimp, or you're adding, I guess, a ton of food to it, or snails, then you want to for sure make sure that it's still a month-long cycle or however long it takes to make sure your nitrites are zero and your ammonia is zero. Snails poop a lot. Let me show you something. I cleaned the bottom of this tank the other day, and this is the tank where I feed my puffer fish from right now, currently. And I'll show you how dirty snail poop can be and what they eat. Look at this. I cleaned this literally last night, and the snails, they get together. And if, let me find an area. So here they're all hanging out. All the snails are hanging out, and they leave these little brown curly Q poos. And so that turns into ammonia. You see that in there? That turns into ammonia, and it is not good for the tank over the long run. Now, this will turn into mulm if you have a really good cycled tank and you're not overfeeding. Then this will literally turn into soil for you, and you can have tanks where you hardly ever gravel back the bottom of it. However, this tank for me is a glass bottom tank that I do breeding projects in and move things around. This is where the baby bettas were bred. And so I make sure to clean that bottom with either the turkey baster or just a gravel gravel siphon, because it can get so bad. But that right there can cause ammonia spikes and can cause pH drops as well. And so it can throw things off in a matter of a few hours from where you thought things were. The other thing that can do that is if you have ADA aqua soil or EcoComplete aqua soil, any aqua soil that has ammonia and nitrites, fertilizers built in, is going to have the ability, watch this. I want to just demonstrate. Look at how nasty and cloudy that is once we agitate it. So all that, once it's diffused into the water, you can see that's that same shrimp and snail and fish poop, but it breaks down because of the soil, the biology in the tank. There's a whole ecological system of microbes, bacteria, fungi that breaks it all down. And even though it doesn't smell pleasant, that's not going to release as much ammonia. However, there is a layer that has not been tampered with so much under that, like I just disturbed, and that's where you get this dark, cloddy stuff that ends up causing some real problems at times. So you really don't want to disturb or replant a tank just before you're introducing new fish. And in fact, this is such a dense dusting coming off of this stuff that what I'll do is I'm gonna do this so I don't make the whole tank cloudy or anything, but then I use the turkey baster and just slowly suck all that up, get that out, put it out into a wastewater tank, and I'll be able to clear this area no problem, and get rid of some of that nitrate, and ammonia buildup. I mean, that's a lot waiting to happen there. Now, like I said, if you have the right things, like for instance, if you have Malaysian trumpet snails, they will break up the bottom substrate for you. They can also unroot your plants like this, but little things like shrimp too. They're going to clean off and eat the excess fungi, and then the fungi will grow back. And then if you have filters that are biofilters with layers of biomedia, now the tank's all dirty, sorry guys, then that will allow you to have, that's the same thing that's going on up here. you can see all the layers of filtration going on. I'm not feeding you, dudette. And that where that little puffer is, it sucks in water from the bottom. And these are very inexpensive. They're very similar to just a normal sponge filter, except they just have a higher diversity of bacteria species, from my understanding, because they have hard surface, soft surface, dense, and porous material, which gives you the widest available range of material for your tank. Um, so, like I said, when we're letting the critters go, you're gonna float the bags in the water so that they're the same temperature. That's the first thing. Now, fish in the wild, as much as people want to tell you that temperature is so important, fish in the wild dive down 10, 20, 30 feet from where they were if they get startled. And that water gets cold in lakes and rivers. So they're used to being able to change temperature pretty quickly. What it really is the chemical makeup, the pH, things like that that can really affect them. And the number one way it's going to affect them is it's going to hurt their slime coat, which is their biological, why a fish is slippery, basically. Why it's all slippery, slimy, shiny looking, and slippery. That's its bio coat. Now, people think that stress coat and things like that take care of it all. Well, that's a start. You could use that. But what's going to be even better than stress coat or anything you buy in a bottle is simply time. You simply just need time for these plants and animals to interact. You can see they're eating bacteria and algae and all sorts of stuff off these surfaces. Now, what happens with these guys is they run out of food if it easily because people don't. Maybe people are cleaning their tanks too thoroughly. And so what you want to do is actually go get more decor out of another tank and make sure they have enough. Now, this is only going to happen with things like gobies, shrimp, and other things that eat biofilm. So autosynclus, certain plecos, I suppose. For the most part, you can feed fish supplemental food, and it's okay. Here's another one. Here's another shot of that riffle uh, goby. You can kind of see they name them riffle because of the little riffle pattern on their back. It kind of zigzags back and forth when you look down on them, and then it's got that turquoise highlight on its head with the diamonds on the side. And then this is that female version. It looks like a freaking Oreo, a stretched out Oreo. But yeah, so make sure your pH is going to be close. Now, how do you get it close? Everyone talks about drip acclimation. I don't like drip acclimation. I don't. It's too hard. And there's ways for it to go wrong. I can't tell you how many freaking times I've dropped the bag. By the way, here are the lipstick gobies. They're way bigger, and they are flesh eaters. They are carnivorous, and right now they're not colored up that much. I mean, you can see they're starting to color up. I don't know if that's just a female or if it's stressed or what. I've seen one that is colored up, so I'm gonna assume that maybe it's just a female. You can see that it does have slight lipstick coloration. It's bad on the live stream, but same in this tank. You guys remember that I had an algae problem in this tank, right? So I've treated that, and you can look at my algae videos or even the video where I took care of this tank. All this black beard algae and cyanobacteria is dead now. I can actually pick it off. It's like flakes off. And that means that my fish, like my crebensis, they're simply eating it. Any live bears are eating it. So my endlers up there are eating it. And the gudgeon, the peacock gudgeons are eating it. The autosynclus are eating it. And of course, the Siamese algae eater right here is eating it. And you see the crib eating it over here. And also pandagaras. Yeah, this tank has too many fish, I know. but yeah, they're eating it very gleefully. They're eating all of what's left for them falling off these plants. So over time, they'll get to it. They will. Uh, and don't worry so much about algae ever, or you know, how things look on your glass and stuff like that. Really, it's the pH and the TDS. You'll know if your TDS is like 400, you're gonna know, okay, my KH and GH are somewhere off the scale too. Maybe I should check that out. And for shrimp, KH is important. It is what allows them to build their shell, their carbonate hardness. But you know, I think that shrimp, like Neocaridina, really don't need hardly much at all because of how good the foods have gotten that most people feed them. I feed them my shrimp. I usually will give algae wafers. This tank doesn't get any algae wafers right now because it's got so much algae that they need to finish cleaning. They've done a really good job on the moss. If you guys remember how bad this tank was, uh, they've done a great job on the moss. The plants are growing in awesome. I am injecting a little CO2 in at about a bubble a minute, just so you guys know. And oh, the albino cribs are looking gorgeous. I love them, and I can't wait for them possibly to have babies. They've established this cave here as theirs, which makes me happy. That's a pandagara. They also a pandagara rufagaras. Any gara is another species that lives in waterfalls and creeks, and they're going to want something like a biofilm or algae. So there's that lipstick Goby again while we're looking at them from Aquatic Arts. There's a link to Aquatic Arts. I'm going to be giving away over $200 in gift certificates later in the next week or two. I'm giving away a $50 gift certificate in the video where I unboxed the Aquatic Art stuff. So that's, if you look on my channel a video or two back, there's instructions if you watch the video on I hope it's going to be fun. I'll spoil it because I know y'all don't want to sit there and have to read all of the instructions and watch the whole video to figure it out. You guys want to just be able to skip through it, even though I love it when you guys do actually watch the video all the way through, or you know, a chunk of it. But what you're doing basically to get entered into the giveaway for the $50 gift card at Aquatic Arts, who supplied me with a lot of this stuff. And those also the plecos I bought upstairs. When I bought those plecos, I was able to finagle my way into them giving me these gobies. So they gave me the gobies and said, okay, we'll give you the gobies, show them on your channel. And I was like, no problem. I am so excited about it. And the promo code is Secret History, all caps, no spaces. Secret History 15. If you've never shopped with them before, you'll get 15% off, and you'll get entered into a few $100 worth of gift card giveaways. And that's true all year round. So anytime you use them, you'll get entered for my channel. I save the money that those promo codes being used makes, and then I give it back to you guys, or I spend it on fish for the channel, like those plecos upstairs. So I spent like 150 bucks, or I guess 200 total on the plecos, the leopard frog plecos colony that's upstairs, the four of them, over the last year or two. And the other half of that money, for instance, would then go to $200 giveaway. In December, I was able to give away $1,500 worth of gift cards and free fish and free shipping. So the more people who use that code, either Secret History, all caps, no spaces, shrimp at Aquatic Arts, you'll get 15% off, or you can use Secret History 10, and that will get you 10% off if you've already used it before. If you're a return customer, that gets you that 10% off, but it also enters you into these giveaways. And also they just kind of know then, oh, that's one of the Secret History folks, and because we have brought so much attention to their site, they're expanding. I mean, it's been a very it's I love the way their company works. I would support them if they even if they didn't give me free gobies every 6 months or whatever. But because they do, I really do support what they're up to, and I think that their charity work for tanks for teachers and not the military kind of tanks, of course. And if you buy or if you adopt a dog or cat from the Humane Society, they'll give you a $50 gift certificate on their website towards fish and stuff. What? Like, they don't need to do that. I think that's awesome. Also, they support during Christmas time and the holidays. They support um, homeless shelter for women and children, things like that. So they're all about community. They give back. Also, if you live in the Indianapolis area, Circle City, you can sell your fish to them. They're looking for local sustainable fish, shrimp, and plant vendors, basically. So if you're like me, but you live over there, and it's worthwhile to you to drive over there, and say you got 100 extra plecos, you talk to them. Talk to Preston, who runs their that side of things over there, and see if they need them. So hold on one sec. Need my Dr. Pepper. No, didn't hear it. They didn't put the money in my bank account. Damn it, Dr. Pepper. I've been trying for so long. They just won't sponsor me. So also the Medaka rice fish that I have up here, by the way, have grown up on me overnight. These are the red caps. I don't have the red caps yet. They haven't graduated. I get that's when they get their caps. Here's some adults. They're chilling. But I did have some die, and I also had some fly. So that is, I may be a terrible fish keeper. I may be an immoral. Look at this Prince Kleiner sword. Look how beautiful that leaf is right now. Jeez, you guys can't see really how incredible it is with the green and the gold and the red and crimson uh, colors, and then you get the dark like mahogany and crimson on the older leaves, and then right here, this is the Logonandremy boldi leaves growing in, um, and look how beautiful they are. Look at that lime green center. You guys probably can't make out the full color spectrum. There, you can see the lime green better there. But then they have a shimmer that's green, metallic green, and then pink and bronze also. So I just love, I love these plants. And Aquatic Arts has sent me a great deal of the plants in this tank, as well as the fish in this tank. And by sent me, I mean I bought them. Like it's where I willingly waste my money. Not waste, but spend my money. And we've got another small Logonandremy boldi. This is a Kerala species from India growing up here. There's the Nanochromis. Those are from the wet spot. But as I was saying, so if you have shrimp, I don't like the drip method. Forget the drip method. Let's do the Alex method. So say you have, pretend this is a bag of shrimp. So you get your bag of shrimp and you're like, yeah, I got a bag of shrimp. Pour out half the water, not into the tank, but into a potted plant, whatever. So then you got your shrimp in here in the bag they were shipped in. And this is if they're healthy. If they're not healthy, get them to temp as quick as you can by setting the bag in the water, floating it. And then as soon as it's up to temp, like 15 minutes or so, you're gonna want to pour them into a net, and just, I know it's gonna be a flash adjustment, but if there's dead shrimp and ammonia in that bag, you just need to get them out of there if it's a small bag, especially. If it's a big group of them and there's like one dead, then don't sweat it. But if you see that a lot of your fish or shrimp died on a trip, then you don't want to take the time to do the drip acclimation over several hours. You guys can Google that. It's very common, and it is recommended for Caridina, for very high-end Caridina, especially like you know, pintos and galaxy and herringbone, fishbone, that sort of thing. High grade King Kongs and Incredible Hulks, stuff like that. But for Neocaridina, for Babalti, stuff like that, what you want to do is you want to, so you got your water, you poured out 50%. Well, now you're gonna take 50% of the water that's in your tank they're going into. 50% is pretty aggressive, but I've found with neocaradinas it's usually fine. So now you've got a mix of 50-50, the water they shipped in and that water. You let that sit for say an hour, half hour. You can float it in the water, like so also, even if it is a jar. I mean, you could put it in a jar. I use jars for all sorts of things. Um, but then after that, what you're going to do is you're going to pour out half again. And in theory, when you fill it again, that's going to give you approximately 75% of the tank water that they're in, because you had 50 and then you poured half of that out, but it's diluted, so there's still mostly now it's mostly tank water. And then you can do it one more time, and then after you do that, all you do is you float the bag open. You cut it open and you just let it float and let the shrimp crawl out on their own, or let the fish get out on their own. Now you don't want to do that if the bag kind of collapses around them. They can get stuck and suffocate because they don't have enough water going through their gills and stuff. So you got to use some common sense there, like help them out if help a brother out if the little fish are having trouble or if the shrimp are having trouble. But even in here with all these big fish, I still have these shrimp these are Malawa shrimp that are chilling up in the far high regions of the tank. They'll hang out on all these big leaves and stuff and clean things. This is a very low TDS tank. I'm lucky. I have low TDS. If you do not have neutral water like I do here in Seattle, if you're in the Midwest or Texas, Florida, Chicago, Illinois, a lot of those places tend to have very hard water, which is great for cichlids, great for endlers and guppies and a lot of live bears, but and earth eaters and shellies, but not great for pretty much any other little nano fish, any Amazonian fish, Congolese river fish, or West African fish. Not great for them. The minerality can be good for plants, but the pH is what you need to get in check. So minerality is good. Plants like minerals usually. Not all plants, but most species of plants like some minerality. It's fertilizer. And you know, things like potassium, calcium, chlorine, so like potassium chloride, obviously, things like salts, stuff like that are great. Um, and then basically, what you need to do in that case is you can't do too much about the fact that you have high TDS, that you have limestone water. We call it liquid rock in the hobby. But what you can do is add peat moss, bog moss, sphagnum moss, uh, coconut husk, catappa leaves, which are Indian almond leaves, banana leaves, things like that. That will drop the acidity, and you'll have to play with how much you need to do it, because one, it depends on temperature, it depends on what tannin source you're using, and it also depends on your flow rate. So how much water is moving over those surfaces and how much bacteria is able to break them down and disperse the tannic water through everything. Um, so yeah, all right, let's see here. I just bought a CO2 diffuser on Amazon, and they used zoomed in pic. Got it today, and it's the size of a thimble. Oh, bummer, dude, Igor. I have a CO2 diffuser that I really like, and that I vouch for. It's cheap as heck. It's just this Fluval one. Let's see if we can see it right here. It's this It looks like a little donut. Here's a better picture of it. It's cheap as heck. It's like $6 to $10 depending on where you get it, and it works for all my. This is a 50-gallon tank. It works fine, and it's cheap and it diffuses water. This one's over a year old and it's still diffusing CO2. And it spreads. You just want to put it near a power head or the canister filter out, and it will seriously take care of your whole tank. If you need extreme levels, then be careful. But I have links to all of that in the description of this video, actually. And if not there, then I definitely have it in other plant related or CO2 related videos that I've posted, as well as where to get canisters and regulators. The regulator can really set you back, and I found one for $54.99 on Amazon, and I bought 3 of them. I love them so much. I've gone through like 2 grand in regulators in the last decade of my life messing around with things, and I'm over it. I know which one I like. It's an off-brand that is made by it's one of those ones that they make and there's like 15 companies that slap a sticker on it, but you can just get it without the sticker of any supposed company and it's fine. So I like that, and it's linked in the description if you're struggling with CO2. Now CO2 also can help drop your acidity, or raise your acidity, so it drops the pH. Mm. Sorry, raises the pH in that the carbon in the water, the liquid carbon, is a buffer. Um, can you get granulated peat? Has anyone used that, and is it any good? You could get peat that's been kind of beat up. I've definitely had old sections of peat. It does make the water really murky. It clogs your filters quickly. So I like to use something with a little more stringiness to it, honestly, or a little more heft to it. Modern Mark, help. The heat, 80 degrees plus, is killing my plants and making my fish sick. So you need to get a cooler, Mark. You can get a chiller slash cooler if your tank, if you don't have a heater in your tank and it's doing that. I mean, you could have a broken heater, so make sure that's not it. Take the darn thing out. If it's 80 degrees outside and your tank's also 80 degrees, something's going on. So what you want to do is you want to, I mean, 80 shouldn't kill all your plants, by the way. This tank's 82 degrees with the angelfish in it, and it's just fine. That shouldn't kill your plants unless you had them at like 68 forever and then you shock the heck out of them. But regardless, to fix that, because we will be talking about that, I have instructions about a power outage. If you look for a video called What to Do When a Windstorm or a Hurricane Happens or a Natural Disaster for the fish room, I have a bunch of advice, but real quickly to go over it, you can insulate the tank with cardboard a lot more. You can kind of wrap the tank a bit. You can take the lid off so that evaporation can occur. Also, the other thing you can do is you can raise, if you have a hang off the back filter or a canister filter, raise it so it's falling. So more evaporation happens, more aeration happens. Your fish need more air when the water is warm. And there's less air, less oxygen, I should say, in the water when the water's temperature rises. And that's why there's oftentimes fish die-offs, like in the Gulf of Mexico and things, because the bacteria bloom, the plankton bloom, and they can't get enough oxygen as it is through their gills. So you just want to get that water moving. If you have a fountain head or a power head or whatever, it's loud though. But if it has a foot long drop, I mean, you can just put a 2x4 behind your tank or, mount something else on there and secure it with a vice grip clamp type thing or with a you know uh, I guess are they just called clamps? I'm totally spacing on what they're called. Where you've got the C shape, I think it's a C clamp. But yeah, you can do that like a vice clamp type thing too. And then or you can actually buy setups like this, and then you could just put the hang off the back, literally like balance it on this. and you know, find a way to rig it, put maybe a dowel or something. But that fall is going to help cool things down a few degrees. Beyond that, though, you would need a chiller. If you're never getting, if the water's never getting cooler, I mean, you can put ice in, you know, dechlorinate a bucket of water and then put it in the freezer, and you can put ice into your tanks. Um, I mean, that always works, but really, that's not practical. It's not a great long-term solution. So they sell chillers at like a lot of places, but probably online you'll find the best one. I don't know offhand what is the best. It gets about 100 to 105 in Seattle, like 3 days a year, and then the other days we maybe get like 10 to 20 days in the 90s or high 80s. But other than that, it's not that big of a deal here. So I really just haven't had a ton of experience with it to know the brands and things. I've never invested in it. Usually I'll lose a couple fish if it gets that hot, and have to just kind of hope for the best. Has anyone tried painting the plastic rim on an aquarium? I have with acrylic paint. It's fine, or spray paint that is for plastic. You just want to make sure, obviously, that it's well cured and dried before you put any fish in it. Um, let's see. Do 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 do. Oh yeah, and for what happened to my face in reality, I've just had a rough week. I've been stressed. We've been looking for a house, and it's stressful. We put in a bid. We always get outbid around here. Everything's going for 10 to 20% over ask, and a lot of people have cash offers. So we just, you know, it's hard to compete, and my wife gets her hopes up, and then, you know, we have to find out that oh, we didn't get it, but we filled out all that stuff, did all that work. And then I just got some other stuff going on in my personal life, but basically I have nerves that have some issues in my face, and you have a nerve pathway, nerve clusters up here, and I've gotten shingles multiple times because of my lupus. Most people only get it once or twice. I can get shingles a lot of times, and what it is it actually is the nerve ending boiling up like it's been burned, and it dies. So every time that happens, the little nerve turns white and dies. It's gross. And it's extremely painful. Like even opening the eye is pretty painful right now. And my eye was swollen shut for 2 days. So it sucks. There's medication for it and injections for it, but right now, because of all the schmovid stuff, I can't really get it taken care of. Um, okay, guys, I hope that this episode helped you somewhat, kind of help you think about ways to do things. Let's see. Muppet has another question before I get out of here. When you get fish or shrimp, is there a trick to get them out of the bag? It's always such a stressful struggle. Yeah, that can be. Definitely, you know, if you have a bag like this, careful in the corners. I always make sure that I get them all, like I hold a bag like this, get them all into so the water lines where my finger is here, and then I'll cut this top and I'll pour it quickly into a net or into a jar or a Tupperware bowl, and then I'll manage it from there. But if you're pouring it into a net, sometimes you'll see they'll flop out, you know, especially the little wily fish like pseudomagills. They're rainbow fish. They're just notorious for just flip flopping everywhere. And same with like little danios, little rasboras sometimes. So I just say keep water in it. Keep aware where they're getting stuck, and then it don't let all the water go out before all the fish are out, because then you get the bag collapsing on it and you got the fish in there and you're like shaking it out. But if that does happen and you're in like, oh man, that fish looks like it's been vacuum sealed. And Igor, that's exactly one of the things that I'm taking, by the way. So yes, but um, the bag, then I've just submerged it back underwater when that happens, and say, screw it, I might be introducing the bad water from, in theory, honestly, I don't quarantine anything from Aquatic Arts anymore. I don't want to tell you guys not to, but I have so many things from them because we're friends now, and I've shipped them things, they've shipped me things, that I think our tanks have very similar bacteria, honestly, with all the fish and plants that we've exchanged. This could be different for you guys. So I just wanted to uh, not vouch for everyone doing that, but I don't even worry about it anymore from them. Now from everyone else, uh, definitely like Craigslist or the local club, they get put into quarantine for sure. And I do not put their bag full of water into my tank whatsoever. So yeah. Um, See much more. Sorry, get better. Thanks for doing this for us while you're in pain. I understand shingles is horribly painful. Yeah, shingles is bad. So I have lupus similar to rheumatoid arthritis or psoriatic arthritis, a form of lupus that's mostly skin, but connective tissue, muscle and tendon also, and the other part of it that kind of sucks is that the nerve endings that run on my face and back, and I don't know, there's a few spots where it happens, but it literally treats it like a burn. Like it's not because I've scratched it. I had a patch on yesterday. Um, it bubbles up just like a burn. Your cells don't know what's going on. It's kind of the opposite of cancer in that the cells, instead of multiplying badly out of control, they multiply like your white blood cells go crazy, your anti-inflammation cells go crazy, and so it starts to really ooze. Your body attacks it much more than it should. um, but because of all this, I am a little tired. Jeff, that sounds great. I hope you have a good afternoon. And I hope everybody is having a good time, hanging in there, ordering fish. Also, like I said, go back, check out the last video I did of the Gobies. They're kind of fun to watch if you want to hear more info on them. And the video before that, it's a $50 gift card giveaway to Aquatic Arts. I know I've already yacked on enough about them, but giving away $50 gift card just in that video alone. And then I'm going to be giving away a few $100 in the next few weeks from them also. And there might be some more surprises also beyond all that, even. So, including I did also give a local person who was in the comments acting very kind and helping other people with questions. So I gave them 25 Malawa shrimp and then golden nebula shrimp from my personal stash. Um, the truth is, I kind of had to move them anyways. So she got a whole colony of them and lives about an hour from here. All right, guys. Yes, their shipping does hurt a bit. So you wait till you definitely get enough money's worth to make it worth your while. But also, if you think about it, their prices are super low. So for the actual fish, and a lot of people on other sites like Arizona Gardens, their fish are like they're like three neon tetras, 11.99, and it's like, well, that's why their shipping's $15 rather than $30 or $25. And the other thing is they overnight everything. Uh, and it's incredibly good quality. I literally I do the unboxings, obviously one take, no jump cuts, nothing. I've never I've never had more than just one oddball fish, maybe, and that was on a delayed by 3 day package. Never had any of their fish or shrimp die on me. So yeah. My TDS in my tap in Seattle, luckily, is between 20 in the winter and spring, and then by midsummer it jumps up to around 50 as the reservoirs start to run out of oomph, and the lakes, and then it sometimes can hit as high as 120. That's the highest I've ever seen it. So very low in the scheme of things. That's just right at the end of summer into fall when we're down to the reservoirs in the city, whereas we have mountain reservoirs that are big lakes. And if people haven't conserved water in the area, then we'll use those extra last ditch reservoirs. So yeah. Um, yeah. All right, guys. Well, yeah, purple Corys. I wish I could get some of those. Uh, okay, guys, thank you so much for watching. Take care of yourselves. Take care of the people around you. Take care of the critters that are in your care and the plants. And then, of course, take care of yourself. Because if you don't do that, you can't do all the other crap that I just said to do. And I'm being bossy. But if half of us did half of that, a third of the time, I think our world would be twice as good. So let's do those things. Let's be kind to each other. Go to the 2 posts ago, the $50 giveaway, the unboxing of Plecos and Gobies and Phoenix Rasboras that I posted. And if you can find a really interesting science journal article or magazine article about the hobby, people then will like it, and whoever gets the most likes gets the $50 gift card at the end of the week. So that's how I'm doing it. I love doing that because it's interactive. You guys have posted the most fascinating articles, so thank you. And I think if anybody can think of something similar, you can tell me on Facebook, you can message me on here, whatever. But I think that would be great because that's also really what I do with the super chat money too, is I try to give it back to you guys. I get money from the ad revenue, and then I also get money from the affiliate links. So if you guys buy something on Amazon, I look for the cheapest deal and the stuff that I literally have in my tanks, and that's what those affiliate links are. I get usually point like 0.5% to 4% of their profit. So yeah, hit that like button on the way out, guys. I know it's a sunny day and everybody wants to be outside. So thanks for sitting in here with me, by the way. Awesome, Curtis. 2 other orders from Aquatic Arts, and they were perfect. If you didn't use the codes and you want to get entered into the giveaway, and you just want to tell them that you heard about it from me, you can always email them too, and they'll let me know. Oh, there were 2 more people who said they forgot to use the gift card code, or they used a different discount, but they know about us from you. And in the end, that percentage commission, so to speak, we save that and then just give it right back to you guys. The company does, and we draw a random number from all the people in the last 6 months since the last drawing, and that's how we've given it out thus far. But I also want to do some fun contests that we're going to give away a few $100 that way too. Okay, I've yacked on way too long. I will talk to you guys later. Much love, take care, and have a great day. Bye.